Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Regular viewers know I review many photographic, audio and video related products. Today we're taking a look at a relatively new camera, the Sony a6400, which is here. And this is an absolutely outstanding little camera. I say little because it is actually very, very compact. It's based around the Alpha range of cameras, the a6000, which was one of the first ones out. Very similar body design, very minimalistic actually. So you've got the a6000, then the 6300, 6500, and this is the 6400, which sits in between the 6300 and the 6500 apparently. I guess when you look at the numbers it does, but that doesn't always correlate, does it? So this is the a6400, and it's got its main feature really is the autofocus tracking, the eye autofocus and the face autofocus tracking. And I can tell you, as every other reviewer said, it works great. It is really, really good. But you can see it's very minimalistic. You've just basically got a hot shoe. Obviously on the back here you've got your viewfinder. They've gone for a sort of a rangefinder style camera. So when you're taking photographs, instead of a viewfinder, i.e. like on the Nikon, which is one of its competitors, the viewfinder is like a standard DSLR used to be, or still are. It's right in the centre, which is traditional. It depends on what you get used to, really. If you're a Fuji fan, or you've used Fuji rangefinder cameras, when you would know the concept of holding it up to your eye like that. I'm more of a traditional sort of Nikon style, Canon style person, as opposed to a rangefinder style person. That's not dissing this, though. It's not saying this isn't, this isn't good. Because it is. So basically you've got very, very plain top plate. You've got your PASM dial, auto exposure, shutter speed, aperture, programmed, etc, etc, and main control wheel here for adjusting, well, your shutter speed if you're in shutter priority, your aperture if you're in aperture priority, and what have you. It is a shame they didn't put a control wheel on the front of a camera. Limited in space, I guess, but it hasn't got one there. It's basically got the wheel around the back of the camera. So you have to use this one. If you're in manual exposure, you would use one for controlling your shutter speed and the other for controlling your aperture. And most of these function buttons are assignable, so you can actually assign them to whatever function that you prefer. It's got the well, on the back here, you've got autofocus, manual focus, and that switch can be this button can be pre-assigned for various things, but most people would set it up for back button focus, I guess. I don't use back, I can't even say it, back button focus, but I do know a lot of people that do. This camera has got automatic eye detect. With the earlier cameras, you had to hold a button in. Let's say you would pre-assign this button for your eye detect. So you'd push that in to get your eye detect, and that's what would activate it. This one, you point it at a face, let's say that my face up there, and half press on the shutter release, and that detects the eye. You have to hold the shutter release down to detect the eye, but at least it picks up the face and then detects the eye. And unlike the Nikons and the Fujis, and I think Canon, it picks up the faces and the eye a little bit further away, which could well be useful. I actually find the eye detect and the face detect on the Canon and Nikon very, very good. But I have found, since I've been playing with the Sony, it is just that little bit more responsive with faces that are further away from the, in the frame, as it were. But yeah, so that's the top plate. It's got a one function button, C1, so you can again pre-assign that for whatever suits your purpose. I've got this one set for focus mode, which kind of makes sense because there's lots of different focus modes with all these cameras. And then you've got your various other function buttons on the back here. Again, there's you can change the association. Like this one says ISO, and you can change that to whatever you like. It is actually set to, I have still got it set to ISO. I mean, this isn't my camera, I borrowed this camera, so I don't want to fiddle around with the function buttons. That may well upset Merv, who I've borrowed it from. But, so that's basically the body. It's got a grip. I was going to say a nice grip, but I don't like the Sony handling. I don't like the Sony ergonomics and the grips. I've got really big hands, and I find that quite uncomfortable. Yet when I grip the Nikon, although it's a bigger camera, I find that grip wonderful. The ergonomics of the Nikon make me want to go out, well, don't make me, encourage me to want to go out and take photographs or take video, because that's just so comfortable. The Sony has got a, you know, it's got a firm grip, but I just feel the knuckles are rubbing against the lens all the time, and but there we go. But anyway, so it has got a hand grip. The battery is the older Sony FW50 batteries, which is a little disappointing. It's a shame they didn't go for the Z series battery, because that would have done two things. It would have given them a bigger grip, so you could hold it better, and more battery life. Although, to be fair, I don't really have an issue with the FW50s. I think they last, you know, a reasonable amount of time. You get around about 350 shots, 300 to 350 from an FW50 battery, and it's got the 3-inch tilty-wilty selfie screen. It took me a little while to fathom this out. You have to pull it out and then pull it up, but it has got the tilty-wilty selfie screen there. So actually it's a nice screen, you know, it's a nice screen, but yeah, face detect, everything else like that works fine. I don't really do a lot of well, I don't really do any vlogging or selfies, so it's not really a big issue for me. Yeah, it does have it. So that's basically the ergonomics and the overview. The viewfinder hasn't really changed since the days of the 6000, the 6300. It's a fairly low res viewfinder. Not bad, but nowhere near as good as the Z50, the Nikon Z50. I can't comment on the Canon M6 II because it doesn't have one. Well, it don't come with one, so that's a plus point to the Sony. But yeah, that's the Sony a6400. The information on the display is fine, you know. You've got all the information there, absolute shutter speeds, ISOs and what have you come up on the screen. It is a touch screen for focusing. You can't adjust for menus. You can't do anything with the menus with a touch screen. And like you can, again, on the Nikon and the Canons, there's no touch screen interface there. It's a good old fashioned, you know, move the cursor around. And also the Sony interface is, you know, complex to work your way through. But that's the same with Olympus. Olympus, I think, are worse than Sony. But if you own the camera, it don't take you too long to get used to what's where. And it has got a My Menu, which they've implemented, which is great. So if you've got things that you're using on a regular basis, stick them in the My Menu section, and I mean, obviously that's empty at the moment, so you can add all sorts of items in there, format card, JPEG or RAW, you know, whatever you need in there to access quickly. So this argument about Sony menus being convoluted and, you know, a right pain in the butt, it is true because they are, but at least you can use the My Menu function, and that speeds it up no end. And there we go, 24 megapixel sensor. It's quite an old sensor now, but still produces amazing images. Let's have a quick look. This is really on a really rainy day we went out. The images are lovely. Well, not lovely in the sense it was a crap day, but you know, you get nice sharp images. Nothing wrong there at all, you know, they're very good. The only thing I would say though, as with all these cameras, I use this as an example. That was 1/60th of a second. Now, this doesn't just apply to the Sony, so I'm not singling out Sony here. It applies to the other three cameras in this price point, which is a Fuji X-T30, which I don't have here to show you, the Canon M6 II, which is this one. You know, I've got a big lens on it at the moment, and the Nikon Z50. None of these cameras have in-body image stabilization. It's reliant on the stabilization within the lens and not the body. So if you've got a lens that hasn't got in-body image stabilization, I have trouble saying that, such as this one. This is a 35mm prime lens. This hasn't got it. You've got to be very careful of image shake, or motion blur, because you've got too slow a shutter speed. For example, here, I've got this set at 1/60th of a second, and you can see just a little bit of motion blur, even in the static. Here, that isn't bokeh, that's motion blur on that, and you find it quite apparent in. See there, just a snacker, a motion blur. It isn't tagged sharp. So I should have gone up to say, 100th of a second or something like that. If you hold the camera steady, absolutely fine. So I've held that nice and steady, and that came out completely fine. So, just be a little bit. See motion blur there, that was at 1/80th of a second. You can just see a little bit of movement, a little bit of jitter. You can see it more in the wording. A little bit of jitter there, which is disappointing, but you get the same, say, with any of them. See, that one's fine. That's 1/80th of a second, that's absolutely fine. So I assume I was holding it steadier then. So see, that one's particularly bad. I remember looking at that one earlier. Though you can see a lot of motion blur there. So there we go. I've harped on enough about that. All of these cameras, be a little bit conscious of setting a slower shutter speed. If you're using lenses that have got in-body image stabilization, not so bad. Like on this Nikon, I've got their new 16-50, is it? 16-50, I think, kit lens fitted to it. And that's got optical image stabilization. I have only had that lens one day, so I've not had the chance to really test it out. But one thing that does annoy me with, I've said this before and I'll say it again, I wish manufacturers would stop doing it. Sony are guilty of it, Canon are guilty of it, but we have like I call it an on-off switch on the lens. You have to kind of turn the lens off and you have to kind of turn the lens on to get it to work. That is annoying, but there you go, never mind. But yeah, the image quality coming off a Sony sensor, excellent. So, if you're looking at buying a Sony a6400, it does 4K video as well. I've been told that the same as with the 6300 and the 6500, it may overheat. I've not done any 4K filming with it yet, so I can't say whether it does or whether it doesn't. But again, be conscious of that as well. But they all these small cameras, because it's really small, that may well happen with other makes of cameras as well. But overall, it's a really high quality, nicely made, compact, mirrorless camera. Obviously interchangeable lenses, the Sony E-mount, which is, standard. That's the APS-C sensor inside. 24 megapixel APS-C sensor, and the Sony E-mount is, well, it's now become pretty much a standard mount. You can get Sigma lenses, Tamron, etc. Samyang for the Sony E-mount. And so the only thing that for me, for me, not for anyone else, but for me, I don't like the handling of the Sony cameras, and I'm not keen on the viewfinder. I haven't got the best of eyes, so I want a really bright, big viewfinder, and I find I get that with the Nikon. So as I was saying, that the information is very clear, the focus points are very clear. So, you know, it gets the job done, but it's not up to the standard of the some of the other cameras. But yeah, great camera. I would say if you've already got Sony E-mount glass, then it's well worth, you know, considering the 6400. You'll get great images, you'll get great sharp videos. So yeah, it's highly recommended. If you haven't got Sony E-mount glass, it's well worth looking at, you know, this one. Certainly look at this one, but look at the alternative ones from Canon, Fuji and Nikon, and there'll be another video on that subject. So I hope you found that useful. Thanks very much for watching this video. Hope you enjoy it, and I hope you do enjoy the content on my channel. It really helps, you know. Please hit the like button if you like this video, and please subscribe if you do like the channel. It helps me grow the channel, and it makes it well worthwhile doing more videos like this. So once again, thanks very much. See you again soon. Bye for now.